Thank you. My name is Georgia Hollis-Dresman. I'm the State Director for Rhode Island Working Families, and I'm here in support of both of these bills. They take seriously and address in very important ways the wage gap in Rhode Island. This is a really big deal. The average Rhode Island woman is losing almost $10,000 a year to the wage gap, and for women of color, that number is even bigger. It makes an enormous difference to families. We're up here often at the Labor Committee talking about ways to support low-income families. There are few things that would make a bigger difference in the household finances of Rhode Islanders than actually closing the wage gap. We think Senator Goodwin's bill is a really important step to collecting data and understanding how that wage gap functions and what it's like across industries and employers. We think Senator Golden's bill is an extraordinarily important step to actually closing that wage gap. It does it in two really important ways. Actually, before I say that, I want to say one other thing. I think sometimes people, when they think about the wage gap, they're like, oh, that's just because women make different choices. They take different career paths, et cetera. There's been really good statistical studies of this, and it is true that sometimes women choose lower paying jobs than men do. But even if you include all of that, include time off that women might take to take care of families, you're left with more than 40% of the wage gap is unexplained by anything but discrimination and bias. So Senator Golden's bill is a really important step to addressing that 40% of the wage gap, and it does it in two ways. One, she talked about comparable work. This is extraordinarily important. The sponsor on the House side has a story about when she was a field hockey coach and was paid half as much as the soccer coach. That's totally legal if the standard is equal work, because a soccer coach and a field hockey coach are not exactly equal, but they had the same schedule, they had the same number of games, they had the same number of practices. They're completely comparable. So that's extraordinarily important, and it increases the enforcement that's possible, so that it's actually possible for women, for people of color, for people who've been discriminated against to bring and win suits, to win redress. And then the other ways that are really important are by discontinuing some of the hiring and compensation practices that have perpetuated discrimination from job to job for women and people of color. And those hiring practices, like asking for salary history, like not disclosing the salary range for a particular job, they perpetuate discrimination, even unconsciously, on behalf of employers from one job to the next. And it makes it so the wage gap starts for young women, their very first job out of college, and it only grows over time. So those are the kinds of practices that by changing them, we can change that.